All right. Thanks for being patient while I get back to you about the feedback on your dumbbell bench. This is really cool. I think you're going to learn a lot here. And this is going to explain a couple things: why we're not progressing on chest as fast as we want to. Also, why strength is being a little wonky, and we're kind of having the forcing reps up versus having the chest do it week to week, and stuff like that. Okay, so the big thing here is technique, and I think a lot of people get really caught up, and I'm definitely guilty of this. But technique needs to look good every single rep of the set, not just of the set as a whole. And a lot of times, what happens is technique starts off wonderful and great, and then it gets worse as the set progresses. And this is what's happening right here in your case. So here's a couple of visuals I like to do. I actually started doing this for myself on stiff leg deadlifts because I noticed that my hips were getting so much farther, or not my hips, my lower leg were getting so much more perpendicular. Sorry, so much more parallel to the ground. They were going back as the set progressed, just because obviously that takes off less of the stretch in the hamstrings because it's less like the moment arm is like closer to your body. So my body's doing that to compensate. And then once I figured this out, I could use a lot less weights to get the same stimulus as long as I kept those reps looking the same. So let's look at your first rep here. This is a picture of your first rep. Actually, I think it's a second, but either way. So pretty good, right? We got a good arm angle. This honestly looks pretty good. A little high arch in the back, and this is kind of a side note, but I would advise against arching that much on an incline because what you're essentially doing is just turning this into a flat bench. If you kind of cut off right here and only look right here, this is just basically the same exact as a flat bench. So if you're trying to hit your clavicular fibers, you're kind of like disadvantaging them and just more biasing it towards the sternal, which is okay. But if you're trying to do that, which I'm assuming you are with the incline, then keep the arch a little less so you can have that better arm path. But look at our elbow. So yeah, good. We're at like a good 60, 70, somewhere in there adduction level, which is good, and we know that it's good for the pecs. You don't need me to tell you that. But then look what happens here at the last rep. The back is a hell of a lot more arched. We're almost 90 degrees. And what this tells me is that we're using our body's mechanics to get the rep up and not the muscles. So you really want to make sure that if you take a snapshot at any point in time, the first rep and the last rep, or the second rep and the last rep, or whatever, all the reps look relatively the same. Now, obviously, it's not like we're not robots. We can't be perfect. But let's say that you use the 40-pound dumbbells and got 2 less reps, but every single of those reps were the most beautiful thing ever, and they all look the same. And it was all actually directed towards your chest instead of momentum. And now your front delt's a little more taken over, your triceps a little more taken over, your core coriolis is more taken over. So it's like all these things are contributing to these last couple of reps that are taken away from your chest. And the goal with incline, and I know in your case, is growth of the upper chest specifically, but we're doing all these things to disadvantage that just for the sake of getting a few more reps. So what I would really advise you to do is to do this in your own training for a lot of things, but make sure that the first rep and last rep stay the same because good technique and your first rep looks pretty good. Little back arch again, but so here is mine. Here's my first rep right here. It's yeah. So all kind of stuff I was saying, flat back for the most part. It's kind of hidden with a shirt. Arms at like that 60-degree adduction, whatever you want to call it. I guess it would technically be ab because you're going out, whatever. And okay, but then my last rep, I do go out a little bit, so this is the fault of my own. But for the most part, it's still probably within probably 5 degrees of where it was, and my back is the same amount of arch, and I'm still directing all that tension towards where I want it to. Specifically my upper chest fibers. Now, I can't go any higher than this. Those my shoulder stress picks me off, so I could probably be a little better if I went a little higher in the incline, potentially. But hey, we do what we can. So that is that. And then here's kind of a cool collage of all the sets. It got a little weird because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you kind of just see the progression of technique getting worse. And therefore the tension falling off the muscles. So, my recommendation again is to lighten the weight, get less reps, and make sure that your technical failure or whatever your reps from reserve point is stopped, not because you can't get another rep, because the muscles can't get another rep, not because you can't, general period, but because the chest has an inability to get another rep, and that is determined by your body mechanics. So hope that helps, man.